Well, hey guys, every week as part of our State Champs Extra Point coverage, we're bringing back 24/7 sports analyst and the guru, I said it, of Midwest football recruiting, and I feel very comfortable saying that again. Just like old times, Alan Trieu back on State Champs. Thrilled to have you back, my friend.
Yeah, happy to be back, and happy to be back with high school football right around the corner.
Absolutely. Now, Alan, for those who maybe are not familiar with your work, just give our viewers a little background on your history and what it is that you do on a day-to-day.
Yeah, I've been covering recruiting since 2005 now. It's hard to believe, but
Wow.
In a full-time capacity with Scout, and then that became 24/7 Sports since 2007. So we track all the top recruits in the country. I'm primarily responsible for the Midwest, but reside in Michigan, so this is where my heart is. And so we track where all the top kids are going. We create profiles on them. We do rank them, which there's a lot that can be talked about as far as that goes. I don't have all of the say. People think I just wave my hand and that all shows up. Not exactly how that works.
Yeah, exactly. There is a team behind 24/7 and what it is that you do. Now, before we get into this week's topics, how was your summer out on the recruiting trail? Can you put into words, how much the recruiting game has changed? I mean, obviously the transfer portal is, just causing so many waves, and the fact that NIL money is reaching unprecedented heights.
Yeah, I think a lot of people think that the fall is my busiest time. That's not true. My busiest time starts in the spring and goes into the summer, and a lot of that is the changing recruiting calendar. So now I think that when you look at the state of Michigan's top 2024 recruits, they're all committed for the most part. So, kids can take their official visits starting in May. A lot of them do it in June, and so a lot of them come to their decisions then. You also are running into spring recruiting where coaches are on the road a lot of that time period, and then June is college camp season. So those couple of months in May and June back to back are actually now among the busiest in the recruiting calendar. So it was a whale of a summer, and actually now I feel like in the fall we take a deep breath and get back into watching football and actually scouting the kids. A lot of the summer is spent figuring out what they're thinking recruiting wise.
Right, and it probably gives you a better opportunity now to see some of the younger classes and, how they are going to, start rising through the ranks, because a lot of the senior kind of, especially at the elite level is, right now kind of figured out.
Yeah, and I think even a number of the 2025s are ahead on recruiting. I think that some of the guys we're talking about are going to end up making decisions somewhat soon. You have a couple guys like Bobby Kanka at Howell is already committed to Michigan, and so even that next group. So we start looking into the freshman and sophomore classes at this point in the fall.
Right, exactly. And it seems like the talent level demands that kind of respect, because some of the way these guys are making waves coming into football at the young age. So let's have you talk about the five-star junior QB at Belleville. Quarterback Bryce Underwood is now a defending state champion. He is the current favorite as we head into the Mr. Football competition as we start the year. Top recruit in the state. From a national perspective, Dante Moore dominated the state of Michigan headlines for the past couple of years. How does Bryce compare to where Dante was at this point heading into his junior campaign?
Yeah, I think he's right there. I think he's he's won 2 state titles his freshman and sophomore year, won Max Preps Player of the Year twice, numerous accolades. And to be honest, Dante had not done that yet at this point. Now, Dante he was a top 5 quarterback prospect in the country, top 5 overall, prospect in the country, and was recruited by essentially everybody. Bryce is already there, and so I think those two are going to go down as 2 historic quarterback recruits, but I think Bryce is even a little bit ahead of where Dante was at this time. Now, Dante did have to fight through a COVID year, which is going to make things a little bit different when we look back at his high school career, but I don't know that we've had a recruit come through the state of Michigan or the Midwest. I can't really speak for the entire country, but I'm sure there haven't been many who have accomplished the things that Bryce Underwood has through 2 seasons.
What schools are in the Bryce Underwood sweepstakes?
Well, they all want him. He's coveted by every school in the country. And I will say this, if we were talking coming into his junior year about Dante Moore, we wouldn't have even mentioned UCLA. So a lot can change over the next 2 years. I think at the moment, LSU and Michigan have the best opportunity. And those are the two schools he visited at the end of July. And so they always say in recruiting, follow the visits. And so those two being the two that he chose to use that last week of July, which recruits only get a sliver there at the end of summer to visit schools before two-a-days start. And he chose Michigan and LSU. So I think those two schools are in the best position at the moment, but we know a lot can change over the next 2 years. But the LSU Tigers and Michigan Wolverines have done a really good job recruiting Bryce Underwood to this point. But look out for Alabama, look out for Georgia, look out for Ohio State, look out for USC. Look out, he's going to stay open to the entire country, but I do think he'll shut things down sometime in the winter. I would think after Christmas, looking into the early part of January is when he's talked about making a decision.
Just to wrap up the Bryce conversation, and maybe this is something that cannot be said right now, but do you think Bryce is a better player than Dante at this point in his career?
That's really hard to say. I do think that the discussion can be had, which that is saying something for how good Dante Moore is, that we can even have this debate that Bryce Underwood might be better. And I think that some of that too is just what he's accomplished, but it's hard to compare. I think you have to go back and look at their supporting cast. You have to look at the teams around them. Right. You have to look at who they played. I think there's a lot there that needs to be unpacked, but the fact that I'm not just immediately saying yes, no, there's no debate, Dante Moore is definitely better. The fact that we can even have that discussion, I think, says something about what Bryce has done.
Sure, and having Belleville in D1, of course, makes it a stronger case for the Tigers in considering their competition level. But not every year, so you have to look at every year. So now behind Bryce in your state rankings, we've got an offensive lineman and an edge rusher, both four-star recruits, both standing at 6'5", both uncommitted. One plays at Birmingham Groves, the other lines up for the two-time defending state champs, Detroit King.
Yeah, from Birmingham Groves, it's Avery Gach from offensive lineman, who a lot of schools are battling for. But I do think that the two in-state schools, Michigan and Michigan State, have a good beat on him right now. They're going to have to hold off programs outside the state. USC's come in here. Miami has come in here. Ohio State, Penn State. They're going to have to fight off some schools, but he was at both in-state schools, Michigan and Michigan State, at the end of July. His parents are MSU alums. He really likes Sharon Moore at Michigan. So I think those are the two schools right now that everybody is looking up at, or at least trying to beat at the moment. But very talented, very athletic, several-year varsity guy who I think is going to be one of the more dominant linemen in the state this season.
Fantastic. And over on the King side, they have always had a tradition of great defensive players, and where a lot of times maybe over the past decade or so we always talk about kind of the linebackers and the edges. What they deliver on the defensive and offensive lines are often guys who make waves at the next level.
Yeah, Xavier Newsom is, I think, the next one that's going to come up, and he's already shown that talent enough to be a four-star guy, have Power 5 offers, but I think this is the year he's going to step up even more. You have Kenny Merriweather going off to Iowa. You have Messiah Blair going off to Eastern Michigan. He's going to have to step up and be the guy, and I think he's talented enough to do that. 6'5", 220 pounds, long, very athletic, going to get a lot of looks at tight end as well as they adjust to life without Dante Moore. I think they're going to be more talented on offense than people know, and having a 6'5" tight end to go to is going to be a big part of that attack. I think they're going to feature him more on offense because of that, but his future is likely on defense as a pass rusher. Several schools involved there, including Pitt and Kentucky, but I think Michigan is the school to beat with him at the moment.
Well, there you go. Can't tell you what a pleasure it is to have you back on the State Champs airwaves. Enjoy the games this weekend. I know we'll have a lot to talk about next week.
Absolutely. Thanks for having me, Lorne. Looking forward to a great season.
All right, Alan. Thank you.